All right, here we go. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles now, and we're live right here on the Chat Sports Network. Chase Sr. here with you. And, of course, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for once again making today's show a part of your day. It is a beautiful Wednesday, April 30th. All of our beautiful people watching from every pocket of America and worldwide. Producer Chip on the ones and twos. He's making the show go, and we have all of you rocking and rolling with us. I saw Jonathan Efrog is in the chat. Jonathan, I just put your Eagles Super Bowl champion tapestry in the mail. So that should be sent to you very soon. Still waiting on those jerseys, but we will get those to you as soon as they come in. Already 113 people watching live, 21 likes. As you come in here, please make sure you hit that thumbs up icon and you like the video. The more likes that we get, the more people who find the stream, the more people who come to hang out, and we want to always add to the Bird Gang. We have a loaded show coming your way. First time that we're live following our coverage of the 2025 NFL Draft. Really appreciate everybody who tuned in. Last week, we did about 1 million views here on the channel. We're approaching 120,000 subscribers, and we're going to continue to give you the best coverage in talking about the Eagles right here on the show. So coming up, really a loaded rundown, and I'm really excited because we're really going to take a look ahead to 2025 partially. Before that, and included in today's show, we're going to take a look at the top free agents available. We're going to have an updated look at the Philadelphia Eagles depth chart. We're also going to talk about Jordan Davis as the Philadelphia Eagles exercised his fifth-year option. What does that mean for the Birds? We did a show on that earlier that we're going to give you once again here on the show. But I do want to begin with this. I want you to grade the Eagles 2025 draft class, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know what you're thinking about it. We'll start to give you some shout-outs here. And then our poll question in the chat is slightly different. Grade the Eagles' whole offseason. 69%, very nice, going with an A grade, 27% B, 5% C, and then 1% D or F as the A grade now goes down to 68%. I think I'd give the Eagles about a B grade for this offseason. I gave them a B grade for the draft. I understood a lot of the decisions to let some of these players go. That's just the maintenance of what happens in a salary cap era after you win a Super Bowl because a lot of players are going to get paid. So Geno and Joseph rocking with an A, Trey Losado A, Henry Braxton saying let's go Chase. Let's go Henry. I like the energy. Donna saying go Birds. My guy Jonathan Efrog in the building. Millie315 saying go Birds as well. I saw your comment a little bit earlier. There was also a comment earlier saying I don't even watch ESPN anymore. I just watch Eagles now because this is where it's at. Really appreciate that. I like that compliment and that energy. I think it came from Young Bahe. Started off a little nervous, but overall, I'm very content. King Javier with an A+. All right, good stuff right there. Also, continue to get your grades in the live poll in grading the Eagles' whole offseason. 65% now A, 30% B, 4% C, 1% D or F. So we're about to start the show here, and we have a lot to get to, and I'm really excited to dive in here because, again, we're going to take really a look ahead partially on today's show at this 2025 roster. And then what we're also going to do some Philadelphia Eagles winners and losers following the NFL draft. Our first segment, though, top NFL free agents left in the aftermath of the draft. We'll take a look at my top players who Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles could sign. We're up to 135 people watching live. Let's get the stream to 100 likes ASAP. If you're ready to talk some Birds, if you love the Birds, smash that thumbs up icon, like the video, and with that, let's start. Yo, what's going on? What's good? Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles now. My name is Chase Sr. Thank you so much for hanging out here with us. Coming up on the show on this Wednesday, April 30th, the top NFL free agents left after the 2025 NFL Draft. I want to take a look at the top players who Howie Roseman could still add to this roster, and I believe all of the players who we're about to talk about over the next several minutes make sense for the Birds. First, I want you to be the GM. Obviously, Howie Roseman is the best general manager in the game, 2 Super Bowls since 2017. He's brought 2 Lombardi trophies back to Philadelphia with 2 different head coaches and 2 different quarterbacks, and the way that he's able to manage the cap and put together these contracts, how he's able to maximize value and fleece other teams, he is a genius. So now step in his shoes and name a free agent who you want the Eagles to sign. And this might be an unpopular take to some, but I do think wide receiver depth is a sneaky need for the Eagles, because let me propose this. If A.J. Brown and or Devontae Smith were to get injured, I would not like the outlook for this Eagles offense and what that wide receiver room would look like. Of course, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are very special as a 1-2 punch. You have Jahan Dotson as the wide receiver 3. After that, though, I just think the Eagles are a little bit thin and unproven. Johnny Wilson is the tallest wide receiver in football, but he plays small and he has questionable hands. We saw that last year. Anaya Smith is a smaller wide receiver who has some short area quickness, but he's a 4-5 guy. Really struggled in the preseason, didn't do a lot in training camp. And then he started to, after he got acclimated at the NFL level, once he got healthy and came back toward the end of the year, make some strides and showed some flashes. But by no means do I think he's ready to get a bulk share of targets. And then there's Terrace Marshall, who's a former second-round pick with a lot of ability. He played on that 2019 LSU team led by Joe Burrow, and he was a second-round pick by Carolina. He went to a bad organization, but now he's been on multiple teams, and bad news for him, I think he's rocking the number 46. So he might just be doomed just because of that alone. All jokes aside, I'm just worried about the lack of depth and the lack of talent behind A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Now, I do think that with more targets and with more opportunities, Jahan Dotson could do something. And with Jahan Dotson, the Eagles did decline his 5th-year option, and that means that they did not guarantee his salary for the 2026 season. Obviously, today, the Eagles did exercise the 5th-year option of Jahan Dotson. And we saw last year, at the end of the year, when A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith were getting some rest stretches or did not play late in the year, when the Eagles had kind of chalked up the end of the regular season, Jahan Dotson was the number 1 wideout. He was the number 1 go-to threat, and there is a reason why he was a first-round pick by the Washington Commanders a few years ago. But the point here being, you don't want him headlining your wide receiver room if Brown or Smitty were to get hurt. And so Amari Cooper is an interesting player, and he is a borderline Hall of Famer. He has accomplished so much in his NFL career. He's slowing down a little bit. There is no doubt about that. But as a depth piece, you could certainly do worse. And you'd like to see Amari Cooper in this wide receiver room instead of a Terrace Marshall getting a lot of targets, or an Anaya Smith, a Johnny Wilson. Now, last year, between the Browns and the Bills, he did not do a ton. Keep in mind, with Cleveland, Deshaun Watson was horrible, and then he got hurt. Then he got traded to Buffalo, and you're thinking, okay, he's going to come alive. With Josh Allen as the quarterback, who can really spin it, he got targeted 32 times, 20 catches, 297 yards. The good, 14.9 yards per catch. You look at what he's done over the last 4 years. Why I don't think he's completely cooked is because in 2023, with bad quarterback play, he went over 1,200 yards on 72 catches, 5 touchdowns, 17.4 yards per catch. What he has to clean up, what I don't like, the drop issues. But there's a reason why he and others are available this deep into NFL free agency post-draft. If you want to go with a different style of wide receiver and you want to go from Amari Cooper to Keenan Allen, who is slower, who's more of that go up and get it, jump ball type of physical wideout who's going to try to win those 50-50s, then you would go this route. And I think both players could line up inside, outside. Last year with the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams throwing him the rock, he was targeted a ton. 121 targets, 70 catches, 744 yards, 10.6 yards per catch, 7 touchdowns, and 8 drops. The weird thing about Keenan Allen, he's known to be a wide receiver and has been known to be a wide receiver throughout his career. who has been so sure-handed, who rarely drops footballs. Last year, though, that was an issue. He's never been a wide receiver who runs that well, who will be gone in the blink of an eye. That's why, again, he's that contested catch guy. And he is still, in recent memory, put up some very solid production. And if you bring a player like Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen in, you're not asking them to be a number 2 or a number 3. You're asking that player not even to be the number 3, because I think Dotson is good in that role. This is a wide receiver 4, a security blanket, where if an injury happened, you would have confidence that you can put a veteran player in there. Luckily for Philadelphia, health has been on their side in recent years. Hopefully that continues to be the case. Their medical staff and training staff has done a fantastic job. I was at the Super Bowl parade. I thought it was a big flex how the training staff, they were on the float and they held up a sign, 21 to 22 starters healthy for the Super Bowl. Nakobe Dean was the only one out, and this Eagles wide receiver duo, arguably the best in the NFL. But one of my team-building philosophies, you can never have enough players at the wide receiver spot, and the Eagles did not draft one back last week. Then you go to the running back spot, and some people might say, Chase, the Eagles signed A.J. Dillon. They have the reigning offensive player of the year in Saquon Barkley, who should have been MVP in my opinion. The Eagles have Will Shipley, who I personally am very high on. But A.J. Dillon is coming off a year last year in which he had a neck injury, didn't play. And so you do have some depth concerns at the running back spot as well. You did add Shinderick Powell, UDFA, from Central Arkansas. You did add Montrell Johnson, UDFA, from Florida. Ty Davis-Price can run it very well, but he doesn't do the little things, and that's why he hasn't been able to get playing time or crack a roster as far as the 53 and actually be active on game day. He doesn't pass block. He doesn't catch the ball out of the backfield. He does have some fumbling issues. Runs hard, has good vision, is certainly intriguing in that regard, but can you trust him? Now, J.K. Dobbins is a tough player to trust because he's been injured a lot. But last year he goes to the Chargers. He played his college ball at Ohio State. Jim Harbaugh, the Chargers head coach, very familiar with his game because he was the head coach at Michigan for a long while. And he was finally able to stay remotely healthy. 13 games played, and I thought Dobbins looked very, very good. 195 carries, 905 yards, 4.6 yards per tote. He also caught the ball 32 times for a $153, 9 total touchdowns. Chargers didn't bring him back because of the health concerns, and then they addressed running back in free agency and in the draft. Last 4 years, you see that Dobbins has not played a lot of football, and these are his career numbers. He comes out of Ohio State really good as a rookie, and then he only plays 8 games in 2022, 1 game in 2023 that did include an Achilles tear, and then able to bounce back in 2024. But I think Dobbins could be a decent addition in that running back room. I'll also say this. We showed you the depth chart a little bit earlier. I think Will Shipley is RB2. I don't think it's A.J. Dillon who's RB2. You look at some sites like Our Lads, they have A.J. Dillon as RB2. I'm going Will Shipley. He has some serious juice. He can pass protect. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can be used as a weapon. He has some giddy up, and I'm very intrigued by the future that he could have. And if Saquon Barkley were to miss time, I'd be interested to see what Shipley can do. Although his White House fit, Chip, not great as a Clemson guy. Some dirty Nikes with the suit? Come on, Will Shipley. You're an NFL player. Got to do a little bit better in the Oval Office. Sorry to interrupt this video, but a quick reminder. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And in talking about free agent targets here, Eagles could make some more roster moves. When the Eagles do make a move, I always talk about it. That's why you lock us in. Hit that sub button for the most informative, insightful, thought-provoking, and entertaining Eagles coverage right here on YouTube. If you want some Eagles jerseys, by the way, we got you hooked up thanks to our fine friends at Fanatics. All you have to do, use that link down below. It's chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. Chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. You plug in that link, it'll take you to Fanatics. Fanatics will know that Chase Senior, Eagles Now, and Chat Sports sent you, and you can get all types of Eagles jerseys. Current players, former players, road whites, midnight green, Kelly green, the cleanest jerseys in all of sports. We'll put that link down below in the show notes. We'll put that link attached to the pinned comment, and it's already in the comment section of today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now we move forward with the top free agents left who make sense for the Philadelphia Eagles. A familiar name, safety Justin Simmons. He pretty much said to Kay Adams in the lead up to the draft, going to the Eagles makes a lot of sense. I'd love to go to the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, the depth chart has changed a little bit because with the 64th overall pick, the Eagles did select Andrew Makuba out of Texas. Started off his college career at Clemson as a nickel and then ended up being one of the top deep safeties in college football. Runs well, 4'4" guy, a little bit undersized, but good instincts, plays bigger than his size, makes plays on the football, and plays with a little fire. And I think that he's going to compete with Sidney Brown for that starting safety role. And then, of course, you have Reed Blankenship, one of the mainstays of this Eagles defense, and arguably the most underrated player on this Eagles defense. Other than that, Andre Sam, a former UDFA, Tristan McCullum, Eagles are high on him, and then Lewis Seen, who was drafted number 32 back in 2022, the same year that the Eagles moved up to number 13 to take Jordan Davis. And obviously, Justin Simmons to Philadelphia would make a lot of sense. He was a two-time second-team All-Pro under Eagles defensive coordinator Vic Fangio while with the Denver Broncos. Simmons is close with Christian Parker, the Eagles DB's coach, who hopefully at some point can take over for Vic Fangio. Hopefully not, though, for a few years. The Eagles traded away C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Sidney Brown is a little bit unproven. And what Justin Simmons would bring to the Eagles, and keep in mind, he signed with the Falcons in August of last year, I believe. Great depth, leadership. He'd be cheap, and you already know he'd be a good scheme fit. And he's put together quite the resume. As a veteran depth piece, this would be a phenomenal pickup, I think. And I think that he can still play, and he struggled a little bit last year, as we're about to show you, but in this defense, compared to a Falcons defense that was new to him, he could play with feel, play with confidence, and be able to make some really quick decisions. 2016 third-round pick, a four-time second-team All-Pro as recent as 2023, when he was a second-team All-Pro 3 straight years. NFL INT co-leader in 2022 alongside C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He's played 13-plus games in 8 of 9 years, and he's a ball-hawking playmaker. Now, in 2024, he definitely struggled. He talked about this with Kay Adams, and he said everything was new. So he wasn't firing on all cylinders. And the Pro Football Focus numbers, not great, as he was graded out, but a couple of positives there. Interceptions, 23rd among all safeties, 4 PBUs, 19th among safeties. If you want to go a different route at the safety spot, there's Julian Blackmon, who Nick Sirianni has familiarity with, and he's had a pretty solid career with the Indianapolis Colts. He's still out there, and I find that to be somewhat surprising. 16 games played in 2024, 86 tackles, 1 TFL, 4 pass breakups, 3 INTs, and 1 forced fumble. Now, he was targeted 23 times last year in those 16 games, and he gave up 19 catches for 374 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 PBUs, those 3 picks. Gave up a quarterback rating when targeted of 108.2. But that Colts defense was a mess. He comes to Philadelphia, Justin Simmons comes to Philadelphia, and when you're in a better defensive system with one of the best defensive coordinators in the history of the NFL, and you have some really good talent, that will help maximize you as a player. Blackmon 2 years ago in 2023, 5 TFLs, 8 PBUs, and 4 picks. And so he's put together a pretty good career, and at this point, none of these free agents are going to break the bank. That includes, I think, Asante Samuel Jr., the son of Asante Samuel, who was a gambling cornerback for the New England Patriots and Philadelphia Eagles, but an excellent cornerback who in the biggest of games always seemed to come through with the game-altering, momentum-changing interception. And Asante Samuel himself has become a really good player. Of course, some changes to the Eagles' cornerback depth chart following the NFL draft. You have to add Mac McWilliams there. Andrew Makuba is going to start off in that safety room, but he is going to play a little bit of nickel. I think Keely Ringo got some good news after the draft because the Eagles didn't take an outside corner who's seriously going to threaten him. You have Adoree Jackson on the roster, the 2 young stars, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, Eli Ricks tweeting some crazy, hilarious stuff while during that White House visit about Ivanka Trump, and I don't necessarily disagree with him. But I think that he could be a pretty solid player if he's thrust into action. And speaking of solid players, Asante Samuel is that. Now, he had a shoulder injury last year, only played 4 games. But look at the PBU numbers. His first 3 years in the NFL, after he was a second-round pick out of Florida State. Year 1 as a rookie in 12 games, 11 with 2 picks. Year 2, 11 more with 2 picks. Year 3, 13 PBUs and 2 picks. And then last year, he didn't play all that much. Maybe he's getting flagged medically, but you want to talk about instincts. You want to talk about bloodlines. And Howie Roseman has talked about bloodlines. He believes it matters. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Drew Kendall, Miles Hinton, they all had dads who played in the NFL. Asante Samuel Jr. as well, and Howie Roseman familiar with them. Because even though that was during the Andy Reid era, Howie Roseman was with this organization. I'm frankly kind of shocked that Asante Samuel Jr. is not with the team right now, because I think he's one of the more underrated corners in the National Football League. If the Eagles want to go reunion with a player who can play in the box, a player who has that safety build, who can play in the slot, Rasul Douglas is a player who the Eagles drafted out of West Virginia, and over time, he has become a very, very good player. Now, I think that he was misused at times with Philadelphia, but he's gone on to have a very nice NFL career. Linebacker depth, the Eagles kind of addressed that, moving up one spot in the first round to take Jahad Campbell, but if they plan on using Jahad Campbell as more of an edge and less of an off-ball linebacker, could the Eagles go with another reunion and bring back Kaiser White, who the last couple of years has played under former Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon, who Kaiser White played under in 2022 when the Eagles made it to the Super Bowl and Gannon failed to make those second-half adjustments. And we're just not sure what the future is of Nakobe Dean. You know, I think the Eagles took Jahad Campbell partially because they're worried about him coming off that patella tendon injury, which is very serious. And Jahad Campbell is an excellent athlete who is a wrecking ball. He has blazing speed sideline to sideline. He has some good coverage skills, and Nakobe Dean is also entering a contract year. The Eagles also addressing off-ball linebacker with Smile Mondone, but I think to start, he's more of a special teamer. I'm high on Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I think he has really good instincts, and Vic Fangio didn't shy away from putting him in the game at moments last year. And then Ben Van Sumeren, more of a special teamer. But Kaiser White, you know what you're going to get with him. That he's going to be a solid player who can tackle pretty well, and he's going to stick to his assignments. And so 1-year contract, very little money. I would explore Kaiser White if the Eagles believe that they have some concerns with that linebacker depth. So let me know. Eagles free agent targets following the NFL draft. Who is your favorite remaining free agent? It can be a player who I didn't talk about. Either way, drop me a name down in the comment section. Segment number 1 in the books. Let's see what the commenters are saying here. 231 people watching live. 15 likes from 100. Hit that thumbs up icon. Like the video. Let's get to 100 likes here on the stream. Gino and Joseph, Callie Green, Trey Lasado, Kane Angel, watching all the way from England. Brian Bidding, Chris, all a part of the recent commenter club. Thanks for being here. I did see we got a $2 super chat as well.
Ice one, baby.
Ice one, throwing in the deuce. Appreciate that, Ice one. If anybody else wants to throw in a super chat, we, of course, appreciate that as well. Ice one saying, back to the Super Bowl we go. Look, you know me. If you've been watching the show, I think if the Eagles can stay healthy, they have a wonderful opportunity to repeat as Super Bowl champs and have another really good year. Now, the schedule is going to be a lot harder and very difficult. Going up against some really good quarterbacks, you have some tough road games and home games, but the Eagles are battle-tested. The Eagles are very talented. The Eagles are very deep. All right, let's move forward here to segment number 2, 10 likes away from 100. Let's get to that special number. She'll be able to get there in no time with 220 people hanging out here on the program. Segment number 2, let's do some Eagles winners and losers following the 2025 NFL Draft. Carol Hosey Hey, Chase and Chip, what's up? What is up, Carol Hosey? What is up? What is up? What is up? Antonio Cummings, yes. Let the young bulls eat. We good right now. So a lot of people don't think that the Eagles need to add any free agents. I think they have 89 of 90 spots fulfilled on their 90-man roster. Desert Dave sending in $1 super chat. And Desert Dave, everybody say it together, he is a first-time super chatter. Let's go, Desert Dave. $1 coming in. Thank you so much, my brother. If anybody sends in a 50, we're going to sing Fly Eagles Fly. No one likes us. We don't care. You send in a 50, we're going to let it rip. As for Desert Dave, the shades on emoji, I love it. Let's get into it. My name is Chase Sr. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now, and coming up, Philadelphia Eagles winners and losers following the 2025 NFL Draft. I do want to begin with this. The Eagles are on the quest to repeat as Super Bowl champions. So if you're excited for the Eagles 2025 season, it should be everybody who's watching this show. I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Let's start off on a positive note. Glass half full, because I'm a positive type of guy. And let's begin with Eagles winners post-NFL draft. One of them has to be Howie Roseman. The Eagles entered the draft with 8 picks last week, and they came away with 10 draft selections. It's the third time since Howie Roseman has become general manager that the Eagles have walked away with double-digit picks. And he accomplished that knowing we don't have a lot of needs on this roster, but he compiled more picks, allowing him to take swings on players. The Eagles didn't have needs along the offensive line. He still added 3 more. That fortifies the depth. They lost a lot of players on the defensive side of the football. Howie helping to replace those players who exited. And so he added talented players at excellent value. And while adding to the 2025 team, Howie has positioned the Eagles very well for the 2026 draft as well. And we talked about this earlier this week, but look at how things are set up for the Birds next year's draft. They have their own first-round pick, their own second, their own third. They have 2 more thirds, one from the Jets, another projected compensatory pick after Milton Williams signed with the New England Patriots. They have their own 4th. They're going to get another compensatory pick most likely after Josh Sweat signed with the Arizona Cardinals. They have their own 5th, a 5th from the Texans, a 5th from the Falcons, projected to get a 5th after Mekhi Becton signed with the Chargers by way of the compensatory pick formula, and they have their own 7th. That's a lot of picks within the top 100 and in the first 4 rounds that the Eagles now have at their disposal for next year's draft. Now, they can use those picks to continue to add to their roster, or they can package those picks to move up the draft board, or they can use those picks to try to strong-arm a team in making a trade. And I like what the Eagles did with this 2025 class. Jahad Campbell was a top 15 player on my board. He was a top 10 player on the Eagles board. They tried to trade up to get him. Instead, all they had to do was move up 1 spot to 31 to get a consensus top 15 player in this draft. And I'm very fascinated by his versatility. Andrew Makuba was a little bit of a reach according to some, but he is a C.J. Gardner-Johnson clone. After you traded away C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he's going to be cheaper, and you probably have to deal with less baggage and noise as compared to C.J. G.J. Ty Robinson, yeah, he might be 24, but for his rookie contract, that takes him until he's 28 years old. He's a player who's 6'5", nearly 290 pounds, and he ran a sub-4.9 40-yard dash. He can help you replace Milton Williams. Mac McWilliams was a top 150 player on Daniel Jeremiah's board. He has good instincts. He can run. Smile Mondone is a long athlete at that linebacker spot. At the very least, I think that he can help you on special teams. Drew Kendall is an all-ACC player who's been durable, more than 30 career starts, NFL bloodlines. His pops played in the NFL. Kyle McCord adds to the quarterback room. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks in this draft. Miles Hinton's brother and dad also played in the NFL. He's an offensive tackle from Michigan who Jeff Stoutland can work with. Cameron Williams, if he would have went back to Texas next year, he could have been a first-round pick. You get him in round 6. And no player in college football at the FBS level the last 2 years has had more sacks than Antoine Power Island. And you get him in round 6 as well. Howie Roseman, unquestionably, a winner after the NFL draft. Winner number 2, Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert. Couple of things happened and didn't happen. He did not get traded, and the Eagles did not draft a tight end. And so is there a possibility where a few weeks ago, as early as in the lead up to the draft, it looked inevitable? It looked as though the writing was on the wall that the Eagles are going to trade Goedert, who they drafted in the second round out of South Dakota State all the way back in 2018 to then replace Zach Ertz. And is there a chance that he could come back? If that happens, I think it's the best case scenario for the Eagles. And if that happens, that means that 10 of 11 starters from a team that won the Super Bowl offensively last year will return in 2025. I know he's been injured a lot, but you look at this Eagles tight end depth chart, he just rounds out this room. He makes this room a lot more talented, and he's still one of the top all-around tight ends in the NFL. He can block in the pass and run game. He can pick up yards after the catch. He has good hands. He's awesome on those out routes. He's electric in the flat. He can run down the seam. You can use him in the red zone. And the Eagles have been able to get away with not having a fantastic situation at wide receiver 3 because outside of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, you also have Dallas Goedert in the pass game. It is interesting what the Eagles have done. You know, they did add Harrison Bryant. Kylan Granson in free agency. I think Grant Calcaterra is certainly a viable tight end too. But there's a situation and a reality in which Goedert could return. You know, there's good and bad with him. He's one of the top tight ends in football, gifted pass catcher, lethal yak guy, very valuable blocker, great playoff performer. The bad, of course, misses a lot of time. 15 games missed the last 3 years. It's part of the reason why if he wants a contract extension and a lot of money, the Eagles aren't comfortable with that. So he's injured and about to be 30 years old, and his cap hit in 2025 is $11.8 million. But if he could just play out the remainder of his deal, or if the Eagles could restructure that deal while giving him an extension so that you know you're in a good spot for the foreseeable future and you have depth at that tight end spot, that could make sense for the Eagles as well. But the fact that he, 1, did not get traded. 2, the Eagles didn't draft the tight end. That improves his chances of coming back to Philadelphia. Some of you could say he's a loser because he didn't get a contract extension, and this might impact him getting that extension. But for the Eagles, having Dallas Goedert on your team makes you better. Vic Fangio is my third winner. Eagles defensive coordinator, the Dunmore native who grew up a diehard Philadelphia sports fan, who at one point coached the Philadelphia Stars. He goes to the Eagles as their DC, and in year 1 has the number 1 overall defense in the National Football League, and they absolutely slapped Patrick Mahomes upside the head and had a dominant performance throughout the playoffs, in the Super Bowl, and now he has a Super Bowl ring coming to him, and he's had his hands all over that Lombardi trophy. Now, why specifically I think that Fangio is a winner, he was talking with John Clark at the start of the Philadelphia Phillies season on the field at Citizens Bank Park, and he said, look, we've lost a lot of players, but that gives me an opportunity to get into Howie Roseman's ear, and we have the draft coming up. Well, what happened in the draft? The Eagles added an influx of youth, as we just highlighted, because they went defensive heavy with this draft class, and they still have foundational pieces all over that side of the ball, and those players can continue to get better. Jordan Davis, 5th-year option exercise. Jalen Carter at defensive tackle. Ty Robinson, drafted. You have Nolan Smith. You have Jalix Hunt. You signed shit. You drafted Andrew Makuba. Sidney Brown, really good athlete. Vic Fangio still has a lot to work with. And speaking of Keely Ringo, he is my winner number 4 here following the NFL draft. And why is that? Well, first of all, I think he has a lot of ability. I think that he can help replace Darius Slay. And I think that Kelee Ringo still has some great and his best football ahead of him. Isn't this nuts? Kelee Ringo, ladies and gentlemen, even though he's entering year 3, is 22 years old. He's going to be 23 on June 27th. For instance, Ty Robinson is 24. Tyler Shuck, who the Saints drafted at quarterback out of Louisville, as some of you would say, is about to be 26 in September. And so the Eagles did not draft an outside corner who is seriously going to threaten Kelee Ringo. The job is all his to be on the opposite side of Quinyon Mitchell as an outside corner. Mac McWilliams, I think he's more of a slot guy. He played mostly outside in college, but I think he's going to move to nickel at the NFL level. And I like him there because he has good quickness, excels in short area zone. He's a little bit undersized with poor length, inconsistent tackling results. And so I want to pop him to the inside. Andrew Makuba is a player who's a safety, but he can help you in that nickel role. High football IQ, reacts quickly in coverage, has good feel for what's happening, was definitely comfortable playing deep. Run support, could be a red flag at his size, but he's a willing tackler. And Kelee Ringo's a really good athlete. I mean, the size at the corner spot is intriguing and imposing. He is 6'1", 207. At least that's what he was in the pre-draft process a couple of years ago. And he ran a 4.36 40-yard dash. 31.25-inch arms. The ability is there, ladies and gentlemen. And then along the same lines, Tyler Steen is also a winner for me because the Eagles didn't draft a player who's seriously going to threaten him to be this team's starting right guard. And the Eagles partially let Mekhi Becton go because of a few reasons, right? They believe in Tyler Steen. They drafted him in the 3rd round a couple of years ago. He was strictly a tackle at Vanderbilt and Alabama, and so clearly he's athletic enough to play guard at the NFL level. And the Eagles didn't draft a true right guard who you're like, okay, he can challenge Steen to be this team's starter. Now, something to keep in mind, if Steen does flop, Kenyon Green has been one of the worst guards in football, but he was a first-round pick by the Texans a few years ago, and you're hoping that Jeff Stoutland can get him on the right road. Drew Kendall only played center at Boston College, but you could maybe play him at right guard. The wild card, and I don't think this happens, I don't want this to happen, is if every other guard stinks, you move Cam Jurgens to right guard, then you put Drew Kendall at center, who had over 30 starts in his college career. I'd like to keep Jurgens at center. He's better there than he is at guard, and he's one of the top centers in football. That's why the Eagles paid him, but you do have some options there. The PFF numbers for Steen, not that pretty in 2024, but when he had to come in a pinch, I actually thought he played pretty good ball. Overall PFF grade 40.6, pass blocking grade 37.7, run blocking grade not that great. 122 snaps at left guard, 173 at right guard, but he did give up 0 sacks and 0 hits. And then a sneaky Eagles draft winner is a rookie in Ty Robinson. 6-year college player at Nebraska, 24 years old, but at 6'5", 290, running a sub-4.9 40-yard dash. He can help the Eagles replace Milton Williams. He can be firmly a part of this Eagles defensive tackle rotation. And if the brotherly shove tush push does get banned, look out for him. Winner after the NFL draft. We're about to shift gears to our losers, but let me know down in the comments section. Eagles jerseys available and on sale thanks to our friends at Fanatics. Get geared up now so that you can be ready for the 2025 season. And it's always great to rock an Eagles jersey during the offseason, during the summer. All types of jerseys available, by the way. Men's, women's, kids, home jerseys, away jerseys, Kelly Green. You can go with some throwback players, but this Eagles roster is so full of great players that I don't think that you can go wrong. My jersey advice, get an all-time player for a jersey so that you can have and wear that jersey forever. For instance, my favorite Eagles jersey, an authentic Brian Dawkins jersey that I got when I was like, I don't know, 13, 14 years old, and I got it big so that I could wear it as an adult. I have a Jason Kelsey jersey. I've kept all my OG Eagles jerseys, and they're timeless. Chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. Get your jerseys today. Eagles losers here. Let's start off with safety Sidney Brown. Andrew Makuba has an opportunity to start and take over that starting role next to Reed Blankenship. The Eagles are very high on Andrew Makuba. And the Birds did trade away C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and there was some chatter after that trade that the Eagles made that move because they were very confident in Sidney Brown. They want to see what the former third-round pick out of Illinois can do. But they also then drafted Andrew Makuba, who's a C.J. Gardner-Johnson clone. Ball skills, playing bigger than his size, playing physical, playing with confidence and swagger, playing with a lot of energy. Howie Roseman even said he plays an Eagle style of football. And so, to me, you always want to focus on a person's actions, not always their words, although words can be very important as well. That's in a relationship, that's in business, that's in football, right? So the Eagles have said, we like Sidney Brown, but then they drafted Andrew Makuba at 64 overall. And so I think Makuba and Sidney Brown are going to battle it out to be the free safety next to Reed Blankenship or strong safety, depending on how they want to utilize both those safeties. Makuba and Blankenship are interesting because they're both ball hawks. As for Sidney Brown, I liked him in the pre-draft. I mean, he plays like his hair is on fire. He's very physical, gets downhill, and has no fear. The sub 4.5 40-yard dash, pretty damn good. Elite athlete. He's very explosive, 40.5 inches on the vertical, more than 10 feet on the broad. A little bit shorter at 5'9", 211, and sometimes in 50-50 situations he can lose out because of that, but a 9.24 relative athletic score. At the very least, what do you have at the safety spot? Intriguing young players and really good depth. Another Eagles loser is, unfortunately, Nakobe Dean, who has become a fan favorite. Another Georgia Bulldog who was a highly decorated player in college, best off-ball linebacker in the country coming out. Then he fell all the way to the Eagles in the third round to start his career. Been a little bit choppy, inconsistent play, injuries, and then in 2024, he really put it to with a pretty severe knee injury. And what did the Eagles do? Again, their actions in the NFL draft. They moved up one spot to take Jahad Campbell. They don't know when Dean is coming back. He's going into the final year of his rookie contract. And then they take Campbell, who I think can end up being one of the steals of this draft. He's coming off a breakout year where he emerged as Alabama's best defensive player. Good size, good athleticism. He can run well, not afraid to knock your head off, proven ability in run support. You can use him as an edge. You can blitz him in between the tackles, good in pass coverage. He, too, plays the game in a way that Philadelphians are absolutely going to love it. His instincts as a linebacker can still improve, but he was recruited out of high school to be an edge. But I think he's going to be like a Zach Bond type of player who he said he scouts to emulate his game after. And I think that Zach Bond's versatility as a guy who can blitz, as a guy who can line up at edge, given his background, as a guy who has great instincts and coverage skills, that's what the Eagles should want Jahad Campbell to be. And if he becomes that, Nakobe Dean might not be in the Eagles' future plans. My third Eagles loser is Kevin Patullo because of what the Eagles did in the NFL draft. And Patullo is, of course, Nick Sirianni's right-hand man. He's been with him for a long time at this point. They have familiarity going all the way back to the Indianapolis Colts. But I thought going into the draft, the Eagles could have used another wide receiver. They could have drafted another running back. Thought tight end could have been a big need, depending on the future of Dallas Goedert. The Eagles didn't take any players at that position. The only offensive player outside of an offensive lineman they took was Kyle McCord. And so there's not a lot of new juice on offense. A.J. Dillon is my fourth loser, and here's why. Because of the UDFA pickups for Philadelphia. And the Eagles only gave him a little more than $1 million in free agency. Coming off that neck injury with the low salary, he is not a lock to make the team. Shunderick Powell is a guy who is smaller, will remind some people of a Darren Sproles, Dion Lewis type of player because he's shorter, but he's very explosive. He had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and I think that he has some spunk to his game. Montrell Johnson, another UDFA pickup out of Florida, was injured a little bit last year, but before that, 3 straight seasons of 800-plus rushing yards playing in the SEC. He is an old-school, rugged, physical back who will leave skid marks on the backs of defenders. And what is A.J. Dillon? That type of physical back. So if Dillon can't stay healthy, or if the Eagles really like Powell or Johnson, I don't think that Dillon is a lock to make the team. And then my final loser is Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Coming out of UCLA, the Eagles liked him as a dual-threat quarterback. They brought him in on a top 30 visit, but then the Eagles drafted Kyle McCord in round 6, and I think the upside for McCord is so much greater than DTR, who when he's played with the Browns to start his career, he's been bad, and bad to a point where it's been a little bit disappointing. Keep in mind, bad situations for quarterbacks with a lack of stability oftentimes leads to bad results, but he also could just be the player who he's shown to be. Whereas Kyle McCord, he is a player who has caught my eye and is intriguing for a few reasons. Led the country in passing yards last year with nearly 4,800. Threw for 37 touchdowns. A little bit of a gunslinger, strong arm, can hang tough within the pocket. Not going to make a lot of plays outside of the pocket, but has a good pocket feel. Puts the ball in a position for his weapons to make plays. Is a local cat from New Jersey. Played at St. Joe's Prep in Philly. Won a state championship. And McCord last year really unlocked his confidence. And you saw a player who played with confidence and swagger, who was beloved in that Syracuse locker room. Syracuse was bad 2 years ago, final season for Dino Babers. And then Fran Brown comes in. They go from like a 4-win team to a double-digit win team. Kyle McCord was credited for that. And Ohio State wanted to move on. They replaced McCord with Will Howard, another local guy who's from Downingtown. McCord goes to Syracuse and with lesser talent, throws for almost 4,800 yards, 37 touchdowns. Had a really good year being added to this Eagles quarterback factory. And if the Eagles think, okay, this year we'll have Tanner McKee as QB2, but next year we can trade him away, Kyle McCord could be QB2 before it's all said and done, sooner rather than later. And this year, he could lead to DTR getting cut and him taking over as QB3. So who is the biggest loser post-draft? I asked you for your winner. Now I ask you for your loser. It's only fair. Comment down below. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe. Hey, how about this? $20 super chat from Doobie. Eagles Nation. The draft was fun, but we really need to start talking about our offensive coordinator. I'd say that he will have more of an impact on our ability to repeat than any draft pick this year, and he has no play calling experience. That is a concern, and we saw what happened with the Eagles after the last time they made it to the Super Bowl and had to replace an offensive coordinator. Brian Johnson was a disaster, and that's why the Eagles moved on after 1 year. I think Nick Sirianni had a little bit too much say, and he butted in a little bit too much, and that impacted Brian Johnson's play calling a little bit, but even the situational play calling for Johnson wasn't good, and I didn't like a lot of the things that I saw. Now, the Eagles last year did have a new OC and a new DC. They won the Super Bowl. Having continuity on the defensive staff is important, and there is some continuity at OC. I mean, Kevin Patullo has been Nick Sirianni's right-hand man. Nick Sirianni has run a lot of head coaching decisions through Kevin Patullo. He's been a part of the Eagles' offensive game planning. And since Sirianni came to Philly, they've been a top 5 overall offense in the National Football League. Patullo has played a big role in that. So it's definitely a concern. It's definitely something that we have to look out for and monitor. But I'm hoping that it can work. Nickname right there. Is that actually his nickname?
I hope so.
That's absolutely awesome.
If it's not Gunny Mac, you just started something that I think we got to make happen.
Let me see. Is his nickname Vanilla Gorilla? That's incredible. Let me look at Dan Brugler's draft guide here. And I'm just going to search Vanilla Gorilla.
You ever thought you'd be searching that up in the draft guide?
Right?
If that's his nickname, I'm so much higher than him already.
If you just nicknamed him Vanilla Gorilla, that's elite. But anyway, getting past that elite nickname usage, early prediction, Ty Robinson will take over Sweat's defensive end spot and be in talks for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Woo.
You know who he reminds me of a little bit? Another player who's not insanely twitchy, doesn't have like crazy bend, but just wins with a defined arsenal of pass rush moves. He has a little bit of a plan, and he can win with power and is a really good athlete, not just because he's a white guy, but similar size. Trey Hendrickson. Ty Robinson is a similar player to Trey Hendrickson. And in this Vic Fangio system, he could play defensive tackle, and he could play defensive end. So Gunny Mac, I see what you're doing there. Joe Lord, $5. Real one, clocking in late. It's never too late, man. You're here at the end of the day. Thoughts on the rugby rookie MC invite? Carson Patu, 6'1", 243 pounds, for a potential linebacker, outside edge rusher. Can we Mailata him? Carson Patu. Let me see what we got here.
Interesting. Another rugby guy.
Yeah. Carson Patu. Oh, I see. Eagles are inviting Australian rugby player Carson Patu to rookie minicamp as a tryout player. Obviously, Jordan Mailata has been the crown jewel of the NFL's International Player Pathway Program. But how about this guy here? Seeing what we can look into. Also, remember Laken Vakalahi? He's 6'5", 320. Eagles are trying to develop him. But Lori Horish, who we've spoken with here on the show, with this tweet that the Eagles have invited former Manly Sea Eagles under-21 jersey flag player Carson Patu to rookie minicamp, 6'1", 243, former rugby league front rower, comes through Conquest Athletic Performance, who worked with Eagles practice squad player Laken Vakalahi. Former rugby player. I wonder what position he's going to be asked to play. I mean, you're saying linebacker, but I'm always intrigued in these player developmental stories. And I honestly might have to do a video on that, because the one we did on Laken Vakalahi, that worked out very well as well. All right, Joe Lord, good stuff right there. Giving us some insightful information.
Yes, sir. Hey, Callie Green saying his highlight tape is crazy. You might have to check it out.
Oh, it is. Oh, you're talking Callie Green. You're talking about the rugby player, Carson Patu?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You'll have to check that out, man. I mean, he's a front rower, so physical and built guy. I was looking at some of the photos and some of the clip videos, some of the quick video clips here. Yeah, man, he can move. He's pretty physical. The thing is, though, at that linebacker spot, it's so instinctual. It's so based upon feel and football experience. As an off-ball linebacker, you have to have that innate feel. You have to have, the quote-unquote eyes in the back of your head to play off-ball. If you have him attacking as an edge rusher, pin your ears back, get that quarterback, then I think he would have more of a realistic possibility of impacting the game there. But interesting nonetheless, no doubt about it. All right, coming up next, updated Eagles depth chart. Outdoor Creations will get to your super chat after this segment. He said, real one, love all the content and the consistency. Just like getting reps in as a basketball player or Jalen Hurts this offseason, that's what we're doing here on the show. All right, with that, next segment, let's go. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Senior, and of course, thank you so much for supporting this show and clicking on today's video. I hope everybody out there is having a fantastic weekend by the time that you watch this. Coming up, after the NFL draft, this roster has changed and altered a little bit. So we're going to do an updated look at the Philadelphia Eagles depth chart. First, though, a lot of you are gamers, and a lot of you play the iconic game Madden. And a lot of you, if you don't play it, you're familiar with the Madden scale. How would you rate the Eagles roster? Scale it for me from 1 to 100. 1, it sucks. 100, best by far in the NFL. Share your thoughts and opinions with me. Let's begin at the quarterback spot. No movement, I don't think, that we're going to see going into 2025, of course, at QB1 and QB2. But there will be a very intriguing training camp battle between Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Kyle McCord. They are going to be duking it out for QB3. I don't think it makes a lot of sense for the Eagles to go with 4 quarterbacks on a 53, given how deep they are elsewhere on this team. And I'm calling it right now. I think McCord is a better processor. I think he throws with better touch, anticipation. I think that he has a stronger arm. I think he has more promise as compared to a player like DTR, who the Eagles really liked in the pre-draft. But based upon what I've seen when he's gotten some starting opportunities with Cleveland, looks a little bit small, has struggled throwing the ball. We know he has that running ability, but Kyle McCord is a very promising developmental player at that quarterback spot. With Jalen Hurts, of course, the grind is always on. Just won the Super Bowl MVP in February, and the offseason work has continued. There was that infamous video a few weeks ago of him in the gym at like 4 a.m. before the clock hit 5, and then the Philadelphia Eagles tweeting this out this week of him at the NovaCare complex pushing some plates. It's awesome. I love the work ethic, and that is a championship mentality. To the running back spot, Saquon Barkley, RB1, coming off the best single season for a running back in the history of the NFL. I'm going to make Will Shipley RB2, not A.J. Dillon. I think that Shipley is the better player. I think he's more elusive. I think he's more dynamic. And I don't think that A.J. Dillon is a guarantee to make this team. Keep an eye out on Ty Davis-Price, who's on the 90-man, and then Shenderick Powell and Montrell Johnson, 2 UDFAs. Powell from Central Arkansas, Johnson from Florida. For Saquon Barkley, he's going to be 29 this year, and he led the NFL in touches a year ago. In the last few years, if you look at the year after the running back from the year prior, after they've won the rushing championship, they've missed a lot of time. Their production has gone down a lot. We know that Saquon has a little bit of an injury history. I called it last year. I said that he was going to win Offensive Player of the Year, playing behind this offensive line. If he can stay healthy, all good. If he gets hurt, you have some concerns with that ground game, considering how often he was used last year. But no doubt a one-of-one player is Saquon. At wide receiver, some depth concerns that I have here if A.J. Brown and or Devontae Smith were to get hurt. But luckily up to this point, they've been very healthy together, and they formed to be just a lethal wide receiver combo. Jahan Dotson is a very viable wide receiver 3. The Commanders did take him in the first round out of Penn State a few years ago. I don't think he'll ever be a number 1, but I do think he's a really good option. Outside of that, it's an unknown room with Johnny Wilson, who's big but plays small. Looks like Tarzan, plays like James. Anaya Smith has looked good at moments. He's looked bad at other moments. He's small and only ran a 4.5 40-yard dash in the pre-draft. What's good for Philadelphia at this position is that they have A.J. Brown, who's a top 3 wide receiver, and Devontae Smith, probably the best number 2. Borderline top 10 wide out. So slippery, great route runner, plays bigger than his size. He's so tough, so dynamic. He has that vertical speed as well, and they both have that great kinship on field with Jalen Hurts. To tight end, huge unknown here. We're not sure what happens with Dallas Goedert. The backup situation, I do think the Eagles have some sneaky good depth here. Greg Calcaterra isn't the blocker, of course, that Goddard is, but has good size. He's a gifted pass catcher. The Eagles adding 2 tight ends in free agency. Harrison Bryant is 6'5". Kylan Granson, a little bit shorter, but a really good blocker. And the Eagles have compared him to Trey Burton from an athletic profile standpoint. The Eagles did not draft a tight end in the NFL draft. And so Dallas Goedert, that could increase the likelihood of him coming back as he enters the final year of his deal. $11.8 million cap hit. He's due about $15.5 million in total cash for this upcoming season. Final year of his contract with no guaranteed money. So obviously he's looking for an extension, but I think the Eagles are worried about a couple of things. If he wants more money, combined with the fact that he's missed about 30 games the last 3 years. Eagles offensive line still the best in football from left to right. Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Lane Johnson, all of those players either Pro Bowlers or all pros. The question mark there is with Tyler Steen. The Eagles let Mekhi Becton go. I would have thought about paying him the $10 million per season that he got from the Los Angeles Chargers, but they also drafted Steen in the 3rd round. I thought they had to address offensive line depth in the NFL draft. My gosh, did they do that? I mean, they added 3 more offensive linemen to the team. Miles Hinton. They traded for Kenyon Green in that C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade. They drafted Drew Kendall. And I think a player who a lot of people should be promised by is Holland Pierce. Guy's 6'8", massive wingspan, UDFA out of Rutgers. I thought he was going to go in the 5th and 6th round. He was a UDFA. And so he's a developmental player for Jeff Stoutland. And that brings me to this. I mean, what a luxury it is for the Eagles to have Jeff Stoutland on their coaching staff. It's crazy how another team hasn't given him more offensive coordinator interviews or head coaching interviews, because I've interviewed him. He can demand the room. I think that he could be a good head coach, but he has churned out and developed the heck out of offensive linemen. Best offensive line coach in the NFL. And it feels as though pretty much you put any offensive lineman on this team, and Jeff Stoutland is going to maximize that player. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do, especially with some of these draftees, some of these younger players, and a UDFA like Holland Pierce. Let me bring up this topic since we're talking about the big boys. And this is a popular topic in pop culture this week. I don't know how it started, but it's a fun debate, and we had it here in the office. Who would win in a fight? 100 men versus 1 gorilla. Type M for men, G for gorilla. I'm going with gorilla. You piss them off, they are mean, they are physical, they are athletic freaks, and I think that a gorilla would have this unbelievable stamina to take down 100 men. You let me know down in the comment section right now. Get your Eagles jerseys, by the way, thanks to our fine friends at Fanatics. All you have to do is use that link down below, chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. It will take you to Fanatics. Fanatics will know that Chase Sr., Eagles Now, and Chat Sports sent you. And it's always good to rep the birds. And it's always good to get your jerseys prior to the 2025 season, because sometimes these jerseys are in demand. They can take a little while. So plan ahead. Get yours now. Chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. Current players, former players, midnight green, white, Kelly green. The thing about this Eagles roster, it is stockpiled with some unbelievable players and great talent. And so you really can't go wrong with a lot of jerseys. Now, we're recording this during our live show. I just want to pass along what some people are saying. Callie Green, gorilla. Carol Hosey is going with the 100 men. Troy, gorilla. Joe Lord said 100 men easily. Very, very interesting. To the interior defensive line for the Eagles, I think Moro Ajomo is going to be able to step in for Milton Williams, and that'll come at a fraction of the price tag. You know, Milton Williams got $26 million per year from the Patriots. Good on him. He was the 2nd highest graded pass rushing defensive tackle, according to Pro Football Focus grade, among all interior defensive linemen last year. Guess where Moro Ajomo was? 7th. And his pass rush win rate was better than Milton Williams. And so you lose Milton, it's going to hurt, but you have Moro Ajomo, who is still a really young player who the Eagles got a couple of years ago in the 6th or 7th round out of Texas. And he's still only 23 years old. He'll be 24 in training camp. You draft Ty Robinson. You exercise the 5th-year option of Jordan Davis, so he's under contract the next 2 years. Thomas Booker is more of a slender defensive tackle, but he has some quickness and smarts to his game because he's a Stanford guy. A lot of academic thresholds there. And then you have Jalen Carter, Byron Young, and Gabe Hall. This Eagles team, along the interior defensive line, they have star-level players and a lot of depth, and that's just Howie Roseman continuing to build in the trenches. And is it fair to say that Jalen Carter, who's going to be 25 on April 4th, can take another leap going from year 2 to year 3, where last year he was one of the most dominant overall players in football? Who's to say he can't continue to get better? He's a freak of nature, man. At that edge rusher spot, again, Howie has positioned this team so that they're very deep with pass rushers. Nolan Smith had 1 sack as a rookie, 6.5 last year, 4 more in the playoffs. I think sneakily, what I'm a little bit worried about is that he had a shoulder injury in operation after year 1, and then he tore his triceps in the Super Bowl and still played through it in that second half. But twitch, bend, speed, he plays bigger than his size. He can set the edge. He's very physical for being around 250, soaking wet. Brings great character to this Eagles team. You have Jalix Hunt, who I think will start opposite of him, and he's going to help the Eagles replace Josh Sweat, and the Eagles will definitely miss him. But then you have Bryce Huff still on the team, Josh Uche, Azeez Ojulari, Antoine Powell-Ryland, one of the most productive TFL and sack players in college football the last 2 years. Like, that's a really good room right there. And part of the reason why I'm so high on the Eagles now and in the future, all these young guns, like Nolan Smith can also, like Jalen Carter, continue to improve, continue to develop and get better. And I just love how he also plays the game with no gloves. Fingers taped, that's old school, baby. To the off-ball linebacker spots, Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean listed as the starters now. But look, Nakobe Dean, that's a big question mark. We could replace his picture with a big fat question mark. We're not sure when he's going to be able to come back. And there was some talk that when he suffered that injury, he wouldn't return until the midway to latter portion of the season. And so after Dean, you have Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Jahad Campbell probably as the top 2 players who would be able to step in as starters. You drafted Smile Mondone, who can run very well, very long, but he's a little bit slender for a linebacker. And then other than that, question marks as far as depth. I'm interested to see how the Eagles use Jahad Campbell. Incredible value getting him at 31. What I think they should do, use him like Zach Bond. What better player to learn from than Zach Bond, as Jahad Campbell can be a Zach Bond clone. Zach Bond was used as an edge. He was used as a blitzer in between the tackles. He is an elite coverage guy, and he had never done it before, but he has football smarts and athleticism in order to do that. So, too, does Jahad Campbell. Eagles cornerback room. I would keep Cooper DeJean in the slot. Keely Ringo, not really threatened by what the Eagles did in the NFL draft. I mean, he has 4.3 speed, and he's over 200 pounds, and he has height to his game. Eagles are very high on him. And I think him and Quinyon Mitchell will form to be a very solid outside duo at corner. Why I would continue to use Cooper DeJean in that slot nickel role, the versatility, I think, makes him a better player. It maximizes his skill set. We know he's an excellent athlete. Nearly a 9.9 relative athletic score. He's explosive. But you use him in that nickel role, you can use his speed and explosiveness to his advantage. You can use him as a blitzer. You can use him as a hybrid linebacker. He can match up with slot wideouts, tight ends, and running backs. Go back and look at some of the reps he had against Travis Kelce, including that 2-point conversion. He's lined up with Kelce, and he had sticky glue coverage on him. Depth, I think Eli Ricks can play. I like his length. You signed Adoree Jackson, who is a long-term veteran. Howie Roseman, even though Adoree Jackson's been in the league since, I think, like 2017, said, we think that he can still play his best football of his career. Now you have Perry Nickerson, A.J. Woods, Tariq Castro-Fields. B.J. Mays is a slot corner out of Texas A&M who has some good instincts. He's a little bit slow, but in that slot spot, he could compete for backup slot reps that you lose with Avonte Maddox. But this room, Also promising because of the young cats from the 2024 class. Quinion Mitchell taken at 22, and then the Eagles moved up in the second round to take Cooper DeJean not far after him. At the safety position, could we see a big surprise and see Andrew Makuba beat out Sidney Brown to be that strong safety next to Reed Blankenship? I kind of like that pairing of Makuba and Blankenship. They both play with really good feel, good pace, good instincts. They can drive on the football, make plays on the football. They both have a history of PBUs and interceptions, especially Reed Blankenship. I mean, how many times have we seen him make those diving picks come up from that safety spot? Makuba is a player who has 4.4 speed, a little bit slender, but plays physical, plays fast, makes quick decisions, not afraid to shoot the gap against the run, plays with fire. Very similar player who has nickel experience like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Their measurables coming out of school, very similar. Sidney Brown, more of a thumper. At 5'9", he can really bring it with that 4.4 speed. But coverage-wise, sometimes he can get a little bit too over-aggressive, and he can over-pursue a little bit. Either way, the Eagles needed to address safety depth in the draft, and they did that with Andrew Makuba. Also, let's see what Lewis Cine can do as a former Georgia Bulldog who was drafted 32nd by the Minnesota Vikings. Let's see what Tristan McCullum and Andre Sam can do. But in drafting Makuba, he adds to that room. Now you have Blankenship. You have Makuba. You have Sidney Brown. You have some of those young developmental players who I talked about, and maybe the Eagles could sign a player like Justin Simmons or Julian Blackmon. So that is an updated look at the Eagles depth chart. Maybe some surprises there for some of you. Don't forget to hit that sub button. The coverage never stops right here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Outdoor Creations, another super, $2, real one. Love all of the content and consistency. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. All right, what we're going to do now, there was breaking news earlier on Jordan Davis. The Eagles exercised his fifth-year option. We did a fantastic show outlining why the Eagles made that decision, what the future is of JD, could he continue to get better, sneakily what the Eagles may have seen, which led them to make this decision, and what it means for this Eagles defense. So we're going to play that segment from earlier in case you missed it. It runs about 18 minutes, and then we're going to sign off right after that. So here are my thoughts earlier. Instant reaction video on the Eagles exercising that fifth-year option on JD, and here's everything that you need to know. And in case you're new to the channel, this is what we bring you. It's going up on a Wednesday morning, and we have some breaking news to get to. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. Hopefully everybody out there is having a fantastic start to your Wednesday, April 30th. What we're talking about on today's show, of course, is the news that the Philadelphia Eagles have exercised the fifth-year option for defensive tackle Jordan Davis. A lot of thoughts on this, what it means for him, what it means for the Eagles, and a whole lot more coming your way over the next several minutes. But I'm going to interrupt this video and give you a reminder to subscribe to the channel, because when breaking news happens, I always have you covered. I'm your boy right here on Eagles Now, and we give you Eagles coverage every single day. Long-form videos, short-form videos by way of YouTube Shorts. We do live shows, watch parties. Appreciate everybody who tuned into our draft coverage. We did 1 million views on the channel last week. And my goal is to give you informative, in-depth analysis, thought-provoking content. And as you can see here to my right, look at that number. We're a little more than 500 people away from 120,000 subscribers. So join the movement, hit that sub button, and I promise you, you will like our coverage. So the news of the morning here on the Eagles front, and it's been a busy week after the NFL draft. A lot of teams across the NFL have been signing free agents because these free agency pickups don't count against the compensatory pick formula. Last night we talked about how the Eagles are going to get some really good compensatory picks after Milton Williams signed with the Patriots, Josh Sweat to the Arizona Cardinals, Mekhi Becton to the Los Angeles Chargers, and now Philadelphia set up very nicely with 12 picks in the 2026 NFL Draft, including 5 in the first 3 rounds and 7 in the first 4 rounds. And speaking of the future, Jordan Davis, Big JD, going to be a part of it here as the Eagles exercise his 5th-year option. And obviously drafted in 2022 out of Georgia with the 13th overall pick. An interesting draft that year. Trayvon Walker went number 1 out of Georgia to the Jacksonville Jaguars. That was a decision by Jacksonville I disagreed with. He's ended up being a really solid player, but I would have gone with Aiden Hutchinson. Derek Stingley went number 3 to the Houston Texans out of LSU. To start his career, he was the lesser corner compared to Sauce Gardner, who was taken 4th out of Cincinnati by the New York Jets. But then last year, Stingley probably played better than Sauce. Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon went number 5 to the New York Giants. Ike Ekwonu went number 6 out of NC State to the Carolina Panthers. Evan Neal out of Alabama to the Giants at number 7. He's ended up being a huge bust. Drake London, wide receiver USC, to the Falcons at number 8. Really good player. Charles Cross to the Seahawks at 9 out of Mississippi State. Garrett Wilson again to the Jets out of Ohio State at number 10. Chris Olave, back-to-back wide receivers. He went to the Saints at 11. Jamison Williams out of Alabama to the Lions at 12. Jordan Davis to the Eagles at number 13. And what's made this pick interesting, and I kind of teed it up this way, is that the Eagles took Jordan Davis at 13 and traded up to take him ahead of Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame, who went to the Baltimore Ravens at number 14. And what did the Ravens do back over the weekend? They took Malachi Starks as well. So now Baltimore with a really good safety tandem. But as we know, the Eagles and Howie Roseman always value the trenches. And Jordan Davis is a player who just turned 25 years old in January. I think his best football could be ahead of him. And at Georgia, unbelievable athlete. We had the relative athletic score that we can pop up, but you don't see a lot of players 6'6", 340 who have the athleticism that Jordan Davis possesses. And here's that relative athletic score, a perfect 10. So 6'6", 341 at the NFL Combine, 34-inch arms, 32 inches on the vertical at that size, more than 10 feet on the broad jump, and this is absolutely ridiculous. He ran a 4.78 40-yard dash at 340 pounds. And so the Eagles were certainly wowed by that, but the question coming out of Georgia, and I guess the question that has lingered for JD, was he and is he a 2-down player or a 3-down player? Is he just going to be a run stuffer, or can he also rush the passer? Because when you take a player that early, you're hoping that he can become a stud. And he hasn't been as dominant probably as what the Eagles have envisioned, but a light went on last year. And I think that's a credit to Vic Fangio. I think that's a credit to Clint Hurt, defensive line coach, but also what helped him, some of the complementary pieces around him. And to start off his career, he's been a little bit up and down. At times, he has made some wow plays. Other times, you're like, at 6'6", 340, where is he? I remember a couple of years ago, he chased down Josh Allen and tackled him. And you're like, oh my gosh, sometimes he can engulf and absorb some of these double and triple teams. That allows a player like Jalen Carter to get home. He can get to the quarterback at times with that quick twitch and that speed. He can make plays against the run with that wingspan, that overall size and girth. Other times, yeah, sometimes he does go missing. But again, I think what the Eagles are thinking here is that he really started to come on last year, and we saw the flashes. Now, with the Eagles exercising this 5th-year option, what it means is, obviously he's under contract for 2025. But his salary of $12.9 million in 2026 becomes fully guaranteed. And so the Eagles, by doing this, and when a player is drafted in the first round, by the way, you can exercise their 5th-year option to gain that extra year of team control, he's now under wraps for the next 2 seasons. And in the process, the Eagles can also have the flexibility to work on a contract extension, although what I think is the smartest maneuver for Howie Roseman and the Eagles, let's see how he can play in 2025. Let's see if he can take another leap. Let's see what he can become. Because only 25 years old, a January birthday, and what's wild is that a lot of players in this draft here in 2025 were taken in a similar age bracket. For instance, Ty Robinson out of Nebraska, who the Eagles drafted, that's a 6-year college player. He's 24 years old. Tyler Shuck will be 26 years old in September. So he's older as a rookie than Jordan Davis. It's like Brandon Whedon all over again. And so if Jordan Davis plays dominant football or even takes just a slight leap or a sizable leap here in 2025, you can get him at $12.9 million in 2026, which is a really good price tag compared to what other premier defensive tackles are getting, and even what some other defensive tackles are getting who are relative unknowns. Like Javon Kinlaw, got $15 million per year from the Washington Commanders, right? Milton Williams got $26 million per year from the New England Patriots. Jalen Carter this time next year, we might be talking about a contract extension for him, which is in the range of $30 to $40 million. Chris Jones making somewhere in that neighborhood already. And so if Jordan Davis can continue on this ascent, and if he can continue his development with JD on that 5th-year option of $12.9 million, you get him at a very affordable price tag. Even if he isn't one of the top defensive tackles in the game, but he's a really good player considering the importance of that position. $12.9 million for a player who you drafted, moved up to take, who you really like, who you really value, who's a valuable member of your defense, who has started every game the last 2 years and has been very durable and pretty productive. This just makes a lot of sense for the Eagles to make this move here. And as we know, Howie Roseman said it at the NFL Combine. I bring this up all the time because I always want to give you some of that background and great information that sometimes isn't always said in the public, right? Howie's like, I have a healthy obsession with finding offensive linemen and defensive linemen. And I believe in the Eagles team building strategy. You can win and lose games in the trenches. A lot of things start up front. You, of course, have to get your quarterback. But after that, you load up your offensive line. You load up your defensive line because you want to protect the quarterback. You want to give that quarterback a run game. And then you want to attack the quarterback, and you have to be able to stop the run. There are other teams across the NFL, like let's say the San Francisco 49ers, an NFC counterpart and rival, who just don't value the offensive line. They went into the draft with a mediocre offensive line. They took one player in the 7th round. The Eagles had the best offensive line in football last year, and they drafted 3 more players. There are other teams who don't put as much value in the defensive line. Well, what happened with the Eagles here? They have Moro Ajomo ready to step in once Milton Williams leaves. They lose Josh Sweat. They have Jalix Hunt waiting in the wings. They knew that Brandon Graham was going to retire at some point, and so they have Nolan Smith, and they drafted him ahead of schedule. Fletcher Cox, he retires. Jordan Davis is ready to step in, and so too is Jalen Carter. And Jalen Carter is one of the most dominant players in football. And so sometimes on TV, obviously, we're watching these games from behind the line of scrimmage or that bird's eye view from the side of the line of scrimmage. Sometimes you have to watch games field level at the line of scrimmage to see if the offensive line is getting a push and the defensive line is getting a push. And again, it's important to emphasize here, Jordan Davis is only 25 years old. And so if he has that monster year, he's locked up next year well below what market value is. And speaking of the ascent for Jordan Davis, let's take a look at his Pro Football Focus numbers here, and I'll read these out. Because again, to start his career, been a little bit up and down. Who would you rather have? Yeah, probably Kyle Hamilton over Jordan Davis. But we were saying the same thing at the start of Brandon Graham's career when the Eagles took him over Earl Thomas. Well, Earl Thomas was in bed with his brother after his NFL career wrapped up. Brandon Graham's still playing, two-time Super Bowl champion, biggest play in Eagles franchise history, and last year came back from a torn triceps injury, and he won another Super Bowl. And as far as the culture, stopping the run, getting after the quarterback, having a longer career, being a Philadelphia legend, the Eagles' pick of Brandon Graham after a rocky start ended up being the better pick. And a player like Kyle Hamilton in an exploding safety market could end up getting paid $20 to $25 million, and he's going to be up for a contract extension soon. As far as the PFF numbers in the regular season for Jordan Davis last year, overall grade of 65.9. That was 49th among 219 interior defensive linemen. Not bad. That's in the green. Pass rush grade, 65, 57th at that position. Run defense grade, this is really weird, 57.6, 79th among 219 interior defensive linemen. I will say with Jordan Davis at times, his impact can go beyond the box score. Getting a push, altering plays, forcing running backs to bounce it out, then your second level of defense is there, being able to collapse the pocket, and other players get credited with some of the sacks or the pressures or the quarterback hits, sometimes demanding double and triple teams, it doesn't show up on the box score. Him just simply taking up real estate is impactful. And Howie Roseman, this Eagles organization, this coaching staff, they are smart enough to notice that. Now, last year, he only had one sack. He had 20 solo tackles. That was 64th. The one sack, 85th. The assists, 72nd. Forced fumbles, none. He had 16 stops. That was 64th, not bad. 9 hurries, that was 79th. 10 total pressures, that was 90th. 2 batted passes, and this came on 387 total snaps. That's 90th. So there's still that concern. Is he a 2-down player or a 3-down player? He had 194 run defense snaps and 193 pass rush snaps. Split, pretty evenly. Here's where things start to get pretty interesting here, because I am going to toggle to Jordan Davis's postseason playoff Pro Football Focus grades and his postseason numbers last year. How about this? You want to talk about a player coming on late where the light bulb came on, and you want to talk about the Eagles thinking, okay, there's something there as far as his development. Can he continue to get better? In the NFL playoffs last year, Jordan Davis had an overall PFF grade of 86.8. That was second among 69 qualifying interior defensive linemen. How about this? He had a pass rush grade of 90. That was third. And he had a run defense grade of 64.9. That was 23rd among 69 defensive tackles. I know a lot of you like that 69 number. As far as his stops, 3 of them, that was 14th. 2 sacks, that was third. 3 hurries, that was 16th. 5 total pressures, that was 12th. 1 batted pass, that was second. His total snaps, 57, 22nd at the position. And so he did that with not a huge, massive body of work. His run defense snaps, 21, that was 35th. The Eagles used him a lot in passing situations. They're also up a lot in these games that forced teams to throw. So he had 36 pass rushing snaps, and that was 13th. So you get what I'm getting at here. And Howie Roseman, this Eagles organization, led by Jeffrey Lurie, they have invested in analytics. They value analytics. Some of these in-depth numbers, the Eagles are very cognizant of them. And so about the midway portion of the year, because to start the year, you're thinking, Jordan Davis, big year 3, what's going on? Midway portion of the year, his impact started to be felt when you watch games and when you saw him. And then in the NFL playoffs, when the pressure was on, when the lights were the brightest, when the pressure cooker was cooking, in the biggest of games, at 6'6", 340, the Eagles looked fresh as a team. They looked fast. They looked physical. They looked healthy. And that was partially led by the dominant play of Jordan Davis. Get your Eagles jerseys today if you want a Jordan Davis jersey and you're a big fan of everything that he has to offer. 6'6", 340, 10 perfect relative athletic score. Freaky. Get them at chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. You can get current Eagles. You can get past Eagles. You can get midnight green jerseys, white away jerseys that they sometimes wear in the preseason at home, Kelly green jerseys, all types of players, sizes available, men, women, kids. Thanks to our friends at Fanatics. You use that link down below, chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. Programming reminder, myself and producer Chip, two Philly guys, going to be going live a little bit later, post-NFL draft. We're going to do post-draft winners and losers, take a look at the top free agent targets who the Eagles could look at. We'll do updated depth charts as well, some surprises there. Also, give me a follow on social media. In addition to all of the long-form content that I do here covering the birds on YouTube, so much short-form content on my social media pages. All right, so the news from earlier that the Eagles, of course, as you just watched, have exercised the fifth-year option on Jordan Davis. That video was put out earlier today, just passing along the latest news, of course, and giving you my instant reaction. I'm looking down in the comment section right now. Who was it? I think it was Andrew Nathan who proposed over/under 5.5 sacks for Jordan Davis. Gunny Mac smashing the over there at over 5.5. I'm going to go under, but that doesn't mean that he has a bad season. He just hasn't been a big sack producer yet. All right, we're going to dip on out of here. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the show. We were live for about 90 minutes on this Wednesday, April 30th. Thanks to all of you for watching. Thanks to Chip for producing, and we'll catch you soon. Go Birds.